So thank you for coming on the last day, lunch. I know many of you were probably developing your career, networking yesterday, last night, maybe this morning. So I really appreciate, we are gonna make this a very action-packed session. My name is Sharon Claffey Kaliouby. I've been in the industry almost 20 years, maybe even more. And I think developing your career is something that is instrumental. In some sessions, if this is usually on the first day of a conference, it's usually jam-packed. But what happens is sometimes we get exhausted, and this happens in life, and we just kind of go, oh, I know I should, but I'm just exhausted, or I'm hungry, or I'm tired. So kudos to all of you for being here. We also have a group of the 30 under 30. Would you all mind standing? Excellent. So this amazing crew of professionals, they are gonna help us, and at the end of this session, thank you guys. They're awesome, aren't they? At the end of this session, we will create developing your career tips relevant for today's world. As you'll see, we'll go through history of time in the last 2 to 3 years, which will feel like 20 years in some ways, see where and how we developed our career previously, and from that, we're gonna see what's relevant. And hopefully, by the very end, you'll all feel inspired to move on and do something maybe a little different, think of something you never thought of, or make an action that will impact your career for the rest of your life, and you will never forget this session again. Now, with that, I'm gonna introduce Zahra. Zahra was part of the virtual sessions on this exact topic during COVID. And if you wanna introduce yourself, Zahra.
Okay, so hey, I'm Zahra, Clarke-Johnney. So I'm the Digital L&D Manager at the English Institute of Sport. And in 2020, I was part of the first cohort of Learning Technologies 30 under 30. So this year, I'm helping support the new cohort and helping host this session with Sharon, who I met I was asked to speak at the Learning Technology Summer Forum in 2020, which was my first ever time talking at a conference, and was on a panel with Sharon about accelerating your career in L&D, also with Kate Graham and Lorna Matty. So it was just great to be able to get to know more people in the L&D world, share my experience in my career and learn from them. And then, yeah, I've just been able to make more and more connections over the last couple of years, and today I've finally met people in person.
This is great, right? So when we started all this in 2020, we had no idea. Okay, I actually kept a photo experience of COVID because I thought it'd be 2 weeks to 2 months. I had to get a new phone before this session, the whole weekend, because I had 11,000 pictures. So COVID was clearly a lot longer, and my husband was horrified when he saw that. But that just lets you know, this is where we started. We looked at a list of 7 things that we thought, hey, this is really cool. Take note of this. We are gonna be building our own list, but when you look at number 1, be a risk taker. That seemed totally appropriate in the summer of 2020 when we thought we're in a tough stage right now, but this is something we'll get through. When we look at stay in the driver's seat, this is something that came from Women in Learning, some of the conversations in the panels since 2013. So if you were here yesterday, you would have seen a lot in regard to that. And it was interesting. I think there was a debate. Do we call this a Women in Learning or accelerating your career? And at that point, we thought, you know what? Maybe we'll get a broader audience. Maybe this will really drive it forward. I'll share later slides, really what that kind of led to. But it is intriguing to see that we got all these neat tips. And I'm going to be showing you the evolution. Trust yourself seems to make sense. Think about what it felt like in 2020 to trust anything. And think about how it feels today. So when you look at some of these lists, take the call. I mean, maybe that's a little old-fashioned because now it'd be like, take the Zoom, take the Hangout, right? We did stuff online, obviously, but to the level that we've got under our belt right now, how many people actually take phone calls, right? Oh, okay, a couple. I hate calls. I want to see you. Like, I want to get on. And that's a cultural thing for organizations. I have many of my corporate friends that say, no way, I don't put the camera on. I'm in my pajamas till whatever hour. And this was probably only till like a month ago. Very different. The culture of our company was, we want to see you. We're not doing it to spy on you. Let me tell you, we saw everything with everybody. I have a couple of my colleagues out there. So they can, even see we saw everybody and their best and worst, and it's really interesting even meeting some of them for the first time in person. They're all clean cut, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't know how tall you were, I didn't know this or that. Never would I have said that when I did conference calls for like 100 years. Did I even think what the person visually looked like or their presence? So this take the call is a whole new thing. State your intent and build relationships. Look where build relationships is, the last one. I think based on what we heard this morning and some of the conversations yesterday in the keynote, I don't think it's number 7. I don't know, what do you guys think? Building relationships.
I was really surprised it was so low on the list, so I was going to actually flag that.
Crazy. Zahra, you were part of this kind of the development. Any memories of building this? It didn't seem that outrageous at the time, did it?
No, because I guess it was like, yeah, especially after, so for me doing after 30 on the 30, then be a risk taker would be quite high up for me because that's kind of what's encouraged from that. But yeah, building relationships again would be a whole load higher because again, like this entire thing is about networking, so that would be like a lot higher. But yeah, I think over each year, things have kind of changed just based on the environment and how the world has been changing.
So I'm going to take us to what happened 2020 to 2021. We still had some of the verbiage here, but all of a sudden in 2021, staying in control, not stay in the driver's seat. Can you feel the emotional difference there? Staying in control. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind, right? Of your own career. The importance of trusting. So not just trust yourself. We now added a weight to that tag. And I thought that was really interesting. Let me tell you, I've been scouring over this. Poor Zahra, Bill even start because I couldn't believe there's even some pictures I couldn't find. I found 2 days ago. To see the evolution of something so simple in such a small period of time. I have been presenting or facilitating panels on this type of topic, and in 10 years, I never saw the change. I saw it in the 2 years here. If you look down further, I don't even think take the call's gone. It's gone. Just not as relevant. Building relationships, and we added networks. It's still not as high as I thought it might be, but we now put in networks because now everything's kind of feeling online. And the being low maintenance and high value, that came in. You know, work hard to be low maintenance. So we're assuming over here we're all high maintenance, you know? And then over here, being like there's no choice, be low maintenance and illustrate your value. Why do you think that is when you look at value, right? Zahra, do you have any thoughts in regard to the value component of it?
Well, I guess it's kind of like with L&D as a whole that someone mentioned in one of the talks yesterday that when there's budget cuts, L&D is the one that's at risk compared with like HR or other teams. So it's kind of how are you in your role showing your value? Especially with 2020, the amount of companies that were trying to make cuts, like, yeah, being low maintenance, but demonstrating that we are here and we are bringing value to our organizations is really important.
And I didn't get that. I purposely didn't ask you some of these questions ahead because I don't like seeing those staged conversations. But that's the first thing that came to me. Now, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the group, I did ask about this. You actually maneuvered in your career during a pandemic. Is there anyone else that started right at or during the pandemic in roles? Right? Crazy. So I would love if you could share yours. Now think, this was someone that was a 30 under 30, so for folks here, and then you went in like full speed mode here.
Yeah, I think it is just that acceleration and the motivation and inspiration that you get with interacting with your peers and with the learning leaders and speakers and everyone, that it makes you feel like, actually, could I move forward faster? Could I try and go for that job that maybe, especially I guess like as a woman in learning, you sometimes read a job description and we tend to be the ones where, unless we meet 90%, 100% of the things, we're not going to go for it. Trying to get out of that mindset and just like, whatever, I'll just give it a go. The worst I could get is the failure, but within that you get the learning experience. You still get like feedback, you get notes, you know what it is that you would want to or need to work on. So no matter which way you look at it, just give it a go. And like, yeah, I gave it a go and was successful, so hey.
I mean, pretty crazy, right? I'm gonna grab the mic and I'm just gonna jump because there was quite a few of you that also, I didn't expect that many, that also changed careers. Would you mind sharing what it was that was your catalyst for that moment in your career?
I actually moved into L&D from teaching primary schools 6 months ago, and it was the pandemic and the shutdown that actually made me reassess my priorities and realize that actually this is what I wanted to do.
Yay. Welcome to L&D. That is awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
This is what I did in one of my old jobs, so.
She's good.
Thank you. So I moved 8 months ago from a purely face-to-face training role into a digital, and I guess it's part of that being a risk taker, seeing an opportunity and maybe looking forward to what could be. So perhaps the pandemic kind of sped up that process, but...
Yeah, and it sped it up for everyone, but bravo to you that you embedded that, because you won't lose your other skills. They're still with you. Who else had? Great.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. I started a new job the day that New York shut down. So I don't know, I just learned the importance of loving your job because I hated that job. And part of what had kept me going in different roles before was how much I love seeing people in the office. And then I had the opportunity to I was a product manager, had the opportunity to jump to learning September of 2020. And that's where I learned the value of networking. Somebody from my network had reached out to me about the opportunity and trusting yourself. If I had been in the office, seeing people every day, I would never have jumped roles so quickly, felt like I was letting my old team down. But I knew it was the right role for me, the right change. And yeah, risk-taking, all of that.
That's great. Now, I'm assuming you might be from America, or do you live over here?
I live over here, but that's a recent change.
Because that first morning when I was the only or there was two of us, that was shocking to me how few Americans, typically they get a lot more North Americans if this is your first time. But bravo, moving. Now, you also said something that I think is real important. What kept you in the job was the office. So I'm not taking sides here, but we need to have that awareness as well. It really made a difference, and it pushed you in the right direction. But as we return to whatever type of hybrid or blended, or what was it, the nowhere land, or crystal balls and all that, we need to, that's a great indicator. And as you go in your career, just noting what's important to you, and maybe move even if you were in the right office. But I think that's cool. Anyone else want to share? Oh, great.
So I got promoted twice during the pandemic, and I think that was down to the ability to be able to take risks in a more sort of fluid and adaptable environment. So that allowed me to implement a new digital learning strategy, which then sort of propelled my career and accelerated that to where I am today. So yeah, I think without the pandemic, I think it would have happened, but it totally thrust us into this world that we probably wouldn't be in for another 5 or 6 years. So yeah.
Cool. As a woman in learning, what you did is, should be noted, 816,000 women left the workforce. 211,000 or 16,000 men were promoted. The story of a woman getting a promotion during these times is fabulous, not common. So rely on yourself that you did something really, really awesome. Try to capture that, and just what you shared with everyone, that's really great. Anyone else before we go to the next? Oh, great. We have Zahra, they're going to keep you running.
So about 8 months ago, I was working on a rose farm in Zimbabwe.
This is a great story, guys.
And the wonders of online courses, but also just following through with it. I think that's something that people miss, is, in the last 8 months, I was literally working with my hands, and then just had a very low tech background, and decided to self-improve, and I've had a promotion since that as well. So it's about, there's that gray area between improvement and failure that I think is just about plowing through that and realizing, okay, no, it's not that I'm awful at this and I should stop. It's more, let's just give this another 3 months and see where it ends up.
And you're from Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Just global. Funny story, I just have to share it. We had a problem understanding accents or something, but we came up with this great future job of sheeps and clubs, dance clubs. So that's what you get when you hang out with the 30 under 30, and there's a miscommunication there. Clearly that was not the idea. Who else? One last person, if there's anyone. Fabulous. Hi, Karen. Oh my gosh. So I invite, just as a FYI for the 30 under, we're past colleagues. Karen, you have maneuvered fabulously in your career, and you figured out how to get up here because I couldn't go down and get credit.
It took me a while. So I guess my career has gone from over 17 years, really. It's gone from, I work for London Stock Exchange, but it's gone from being on the help desk to being in a client-facing role to then moving into a learning and development role, where before COVID, I took the decision to quit London and just start a PT and boxing coach business. And I've never, ever set my own company up, and I managed to be really successful. I had a full book of business. COVID hit, I also separated, and I think this goes into, in our career, we also need to maneuver when life changes, the motivation changes as well. So I worked 7 days a week for nearly 2 years, and then I wanted to go back. I have 2 teenage sons, and I managed to find my old job in learning and development as a project manager, and I'm now moved into sales enablement director role. So this is
Promoted.
all during COVID. So I kept my PT business is still going, and yeah, I think it's just when you're there, and I think especially as a woman, what the PT business taught me is that when you have confidence, people see you differently.
Right, and whatever means that is, what I love is we've heard 2 pivots by not under 30s that have come into the L&D industry. This is great news. What I also like is that they've come from different industries. So you left, did something really different, which we hear about with engineering and other, big career moves, right? In L&D, it was always like a pass-through. People weren't coming back and people weren't joining later in their careers. So I think that's very cool. Thank you, Karen. So what we did here is we started to do things online. I had an even better picture. On Mother's Day of 2020, I ended up doing Accelerating Your Career. I don't know why I did it, but it's great. Like I had mimosas. It was the first time I ever drank on like a work thing, but I said, it's a Sunday, I can do it. It's Mother's Day. These fed the soul. I would say not having this, I think would have damaged how good this type of a conference is. We did something though. Every person here, I think, that spoke up said they took some sort of risk, right? Risk taker. We got scared at this point. So we said, get involved. I don't know if we want to put risk taker. We still kept it at the top. Build relationships still down there. So I just like to show you the evolution because we're going to build what it is for today. And I think that's really neat. I mean, you can see some people weren't comfortable, but it was a whole different hybrid event at that point with the classroom involved there too. So right here, I'm just emphasizing by the time it was 2021, this is where our list moved to. Oh, and I think it was always supposed to be top 10. Clearly, I couldn't count because the others were either 5 or 7. But then we said, okay, we need to build relationships, has bumped up a bit. We also know that your voice matters. Know your voice was really impacted by the importance of gender equality, diversity of thought that we're talking about now. You have an impact positively or negatively. You need to be held accountable for that. Be prepared is right here. So be prepared and get involved. We're both at one point included under risk taker. And I thought that was really neat in the evolution of some of these. Any questions on this list? Because we're even gonna dive forward and you'll get access to this. There's somebody right over here.
Thank you. I'm just a little bit confused by the low maintenance bit.
I don't like that either. I can't believe me. Like if you were here yesterday, one thing I'm not is low maintenance, but I didn't even notice that 2 years ago.
Because I get working hard, but like I've just sat in on the curiosity talk, and you think, I personally myself ask a lot of questions. I want to learn, I want to know, and to some people that would probably seem like quite high maintenance because I'm like, hey, help me out.
Right.
So yeah, I was
There's
just
fear.
quite confused
There
by
was
that.
fear. There was quite, and this is global. So this list was developed by people all over the world, not just North America. But there was a time where, and this initiated out of Women in Learning. Like I'm really, this is scary. In the Women in Learning, we realized if you were too much of a hassle, you did get exited. And at no point will I ever recommend to anyone in the profession to go above and beyond their culture and their environment if they're not willing to know where they're going next, or to be prepared to leave if that's the situation. So that's where that came from. And I wanted to almost remove it as I was going through, and I said, I can't, this is historical. Be low maintenance was in order that there was fear, and the high maintenance people were exited, and I saw them by the droves, silently though. So the other thing with this great resignation, which I'm kind of, I've said it before, I said it yesterday, I didn't see tons of people eating bonbons, saying I'm loaded with money, I'm gonna hang back, and most people that I knew, and even when we did hybrids, it was always women referenced in that. I do know there were men. My husband was made redundant as well at some point. We were a little bit more prepared because you could see it, but I felt for people that weren't at the level in their career to know when something like this was coming. And it all leads to great roads, right? But be low maintenance. I don't think it'll be on this list coming up, right? I think we've really grown and we have a different confidence based on what we in the globe, in the world, have gone through, and we've gone through it together. One of the only things I can ever remember that was really, like, I worked from home for 15 years, it was this battle, somebody else did it, and then all of a sudden, we were all doing it. Yet, we're here today and appreciating this. I'm not gonna go through this, but this gives the history of some of these titles that you first saw, and I thought that was really important here. It lets you understand, because as I looked at this, I said, I can't not leave this in here at some point. And it was curated initially from 2013, came from higher ed as well as many different industries, and it came from around the world. But we are in a completely different place, so I'm not gonna waste our time there. I'll put up some of these lists as we go through and kind of get to where we're going. We're gonna jump into your thoughts. So I'm just gonna bring this back. When we go back, we've had our thoughts here too. I wanna make sure we get enough workshop time here. During COVID, we took polls. Now, we never did that before. We never had the opportunity, and I think that allowed us to get clearer insight. So what I'm gonna ask you to do now is I'm gonna share these polls, but I'm gonna ask the 30 under 30s if you could stand up, and maybe 2 or 3 at a time. We're gonna break you into groups. I think we're all smart enough. We'll put maybe you 3 over in that corner, 3 can stay here, 3 there, and then 3 there. And if you could circle around the 30 under 30s, we are gonna start building what it is to create the top tips today to develop your career. We have a lot of intelligence in this room and a lot of people that have gone through and have a build-up, and you might hear something that you didn't think of, or you might want to share something that worked really well for you. So with that, I'm going to ask the 30 under 30s, like groups of 3, if not more, to go to each corner here and grab a group of folks. And once you're standing there, if you can just gravitate. We don't have a too big a group here. Hello? So we're in our groups, and the first thing I want you to think about is in your current employment status. It was real important. Look at how many, there's only one that says fully employed. Now clearly, most of your organizations have sent you or you've gotten approval. This is a different type of poll, but it might be neat to find out what the status is. Do we have consultants? Do we have contractors? Do we have fully employed in the office? Maybe it's in the office at home. What we also want to do is what type of organization do you work for? Now, we're not going to collect this back, but this was analytics that we were able to capture when we carried these conversations online. So L&D practitioner, educational organization, or no vote. I love that. Like, if you don't want anyone to know, because in some of the hybrids, we got very secret people coming in. It kind of creeped me out because it was on the cybersecurity one. But yeah, I saw avatars and we had some governmental people there. So that was kind of interesting from a career perspective. And then these are questions we asked to develop your career during COVID. And I'll flip back to these, but why is the job search constant? Finding formal and informal coaches. I'm gonna leave that up here just as, and I'm gonna in 2 minutes put up another slide as you're working and talking together. Now 30 under 30s, it's mission critical that someone takes notes or can remember and feed information up to me real time, because we are gonna build the list as you guys are meeting. So it's asking for a lot, but I know you can do it. So starting, these are some things to think about. Who's in your group? And how are you working on the questions that you would ask to develop your career? To spark your conversation. And Googling online webinar polls for this. This is what I found. What do ducks have to do with... This is just the confusion in regard to the topic and where we were headed. So I'm just adding that in there is, was there a layer of confusion in the development of your career in the past 2 years with you in general? Because clearly something was going on online, that they've got multiple ducks and question marks. And then this was another one that I saw. Anyone can do this. Here, just put that sticker up and you're going to now teach on Zoom. Were people prepared to do that? I love hearing that there was a flip in a couple of the folks moving from, hey, I'm switching up my career a bit. I still have a love for education. But this came up everywhere in multiple formats. So you could just plaster it on and, hey, I can teach via Zoom. Like, we never used the medium as the way that we were teaching. You never said, hey, I can teach via foot, hand, stand in front of you. It was really unique, and I got really obsessed with like researching into this. The world has really shifted as you look at it. And then here's some other questions that came up post-COVID. Really what drew you into this is the value word. Remember that didn't come up till later. Retaining. I love the example of, I didn't really have a reason to go into the office. You know, I was saying in the 90s, they really made office fun. I used to do roller hockey 2 hours every other day, and it wasn't thought about. We would do softball teams. There was a keg. This is pre-9/11. A keg of beer came in on Thursday or Friday. It's illegal now in Massachusetts, bummer. But many things kept people to want to do that. The 30 under 30s, they're taking notes. They're going to have their thoughts as they come up. And then what resources and support. So I'm leaving this one up. I just wanted to interrupt your flow here for the reason to say, think of these areas as well when you're getting this list together. Okay, I'm going to ask for the note takers to please come on stage. I didn't add that, did I? So if you could, if you could just come on stage and line up right here, just like the morning yesterday, that feels like 2 years ago, right? We're all old friends now, right? I love this. If someone could even get a picture that the 30 under 30s are delivering at this stage, I'm going to ask, come on in. You guys are awesome. We already got you. You can put this on your resume, a CV. You've delivered at a conference, just adding to the network here and the experiences. I'm going to give you each the mic. I will ask for the notes too, so I will be sending out on this last what now. We have what is the list. And I think it's kind of cool that in this one short lunchtime session, we're creating something right now. And I think something of great relevance to those that couldn't make it for whatever reason. So with that, I'm going to ask you just to read out your summary, pass the mic, and then we're going to have some amazing closing thoughts, and you're going to be great, don't worry.
Proving value was one of our first thoughts, and what we mean is working on those high impact projects. Don't be afraid to take them. And the other experience that it was very interesting to understand is just go for the position, ask for it. Ask what do you need to do in order to get there if that's what you want to do.
So a lot of our discussion was around the sort of low maintenance, which seems to be quite controversial in the group. You know, on one side you've got the sort of not being a pain in the ass and just, you know, adding value, you know, making sure that you're contributing to the company in a productive way. But then on the flip side of that, you've got, you know, it sort of ties into the sort of knowing your voice and being able to, you know, speak up when it's appropriate. Maybe it's more of a case of being sort of self-aware and self-directed to speak up when appropriate. So maybe there's a sort of linguistic, you know, subtlety there. We spoke about trusting yourself and also adding on to that, trusting others.
I couldn't believe that wasn't included. Trust yourself. What about everybody around?
Yeah, and that sort of ties into sort of assuming positive intent, that was mentioned. And then also bringing evidence to support your voice in you know, whatever you're bringing to the company was also mentioned as well.
So we discussed the constant search, and we think it is because, you know, role change and your life changes as well. So while your life changes, you keep searching for, well, sort of the perfect position.
Sorry, I'm so proud of all you guys. You guys are awesome.
But we also said that there is not really a dream job, but there is a dream lifestyle and a dream life that you should, you know, go towards. And so it is okay if you work 3 or 4 days a week. You don't have to kill yourself with work. Your career
Can you
should
come
fit.
to America? Can I just pack you up?
It was not my idea, to be honest. It was an idea from the lady in the nice green dress. So she's the one that should be coming. But yeah, so that your career should fit into your life and not the other way around. And finally, we discussed that it is also important to understand which position exists. It seems to be a little bit of a jungle out there, and what skills you need to have in order to get the job that you want.
Great, excellent.
We talked a lot about diversity in roles, and I know it's something that Esther brought up yesterday as well. Karim has loads of different roles and different areas that all kind of correlate together in L&D. We talked about the social interaction and making sure that we're still having that opportunity to talk to people. Collaboration does happen when you don't expect it sometimes.
That's right.
So being
going
able
to the kitchen or walking by some. We just talked about it in a cab with a couple of executives the other day.
Yeah, and it's how do we create those opportunities still. So, and again, like Jordan said, we talked about the low maintenance of stuff, and we kind of thought that actually, is it more being agile, being more changeable, being more flexible with what we're doing and working smarter, not necessarily harder. So.
Great.
Very nice, everybody. Let's see what we can add. I think the conversation that we've had was absolutely mentioning that flexibility and knowing that there will be another change, there will be another challenge, there will be another moment in time, right, where we have to flip everything that we thought was perfect and start over again. So just having that at the back of your head, and at the same time, super important, is do not forget your personal values. Yeah, and what you want to do. So there might be this fantastic job opportunity right down the corner, but it might not be for you. Yeah, so those are the things that we definitely need to remember.
Great.
Team, anything to add? That's it. Thank you.
Great. What to say?
So we sort of spoke about engagement, and that got onto reading and understanding people. Sort of, firstly within, the majority of roles here, your learners and things like that, but then how that can also be sort of looking up at that and learning to read, the people that you need to try and influence or work with to get what you want. Listen to yourself, which sort of feeds into using your voice. If you believe in what you're saying, whatever you then use your voice to say is going to come across, a lot better. And the importance of getting out of the office and, not only networking, which is super important, but then moving into that, just speaking to pretty much anybody and getting those different opinions. And that then also fed into, we started talking about well-being, and you can't progress or develop very well if you're not feeling 100% and that you're not in a really good place. So actually also getting outside just for a walk and those kind of things of you need to keep making sure that you're okay.
The walking meeting is something that I was introduced to in the bank, and it is one of the best things, even if you're on the phone or if you're talking next to someone. Get what you want. I really like that was in there too. And then having that balance of making sure that it's all gonna work. I also have been hearing, do what you love what you do. You won't notice what days of the week you're in and the hours you're pulling if you almost have to watch that you don't overdo it because you love what you're doing, right? Next one.
I think a lot of stuff has already been covered because it's had some really good ideas, but we had one that I really liked, which was create your vision and don't be afraid to share that vision with your manager and your team. Great. So we had a really great, there were 2 people in our group, so it was a manager and their direct report, I suppose, officially. And she was saying, I have my plan and my manager knows all about it. And then he said, and we're going to work together to make sure that plan happens. And I love that, and that won't happen unless you share that.
Absolutely.
And then we also had championing for yourself, so advocate for yourself.
Champion.
If you know that you enjoy something, if you're curious about something, ask if you can get involved, kind of look and for those opportunities to do different things. So that was another one. And then also to champion for other people. So in the same way of, sometimes you don't recognize if you're going to be good at something, and if other people tell you, hey, you be good at that, listen to that, but also be that person for someone else. If you recognize there's an opportunity that might not be a good fit for you, but you know someone that would be, bring them up with you and get them involved in that and champion other people, because then you can have a really good collaboration.
I love that. That's great. Enabling others. We talked about that with the elevator. Don't just send it down, send it around, and be willing to get on the elevator, right?
Thanks. Yeah, lots of stuff already been covered, but a few other things that might resonate from our group. So showing your impact, I think that was one of the first comments, and making that visible to people. And there are lots of ways that you can do that with small projects and big projects, but really showing that impact and being able to back that up when it comes to an appraisal or whatever it is that you need to go through to get that promotion. Safety came up a lot. Safety to challenge, safety, psychological safety to bring your whole self to work. Self-leadership, we all have a space to lead. I think that was probably one of my favourite parts. You know, you can look to your managers or to your leaders who, you know, have direct reports or are super senior in the company, but we all play a part in leading that company, and we all have a role to play. And then finally, boundary management. So yeah, being able to feel comfortable with how you want to work, feeling comfortable sharing that, and feeling that other people really respect that. So again,
I'm seeing a theme of communication here, like it's never been stated before. And lastly, here, step out in front of me so they can.
So yeah, there are a few that have already been covered, but a couple that we spoke about. So we looked at the low maintenance thing from a slightly different perspective, and thought about that being having more autonomy in your role and being able to take more initiative, and potentially that's what could be fed into that low maintenance band. But then on an opposite spectrum, also knowing your worth and taking up space and not being afraid to do so. Another one we had was being able to self-manage your time, but also that work-life balance and that well-being perspective. And then one around being open-minded. I think the example that we spoke about was when going for a role, you know, look at things, but take it with a pinch of salt and be open-minded. But then layered with that is have the confidence to challenge and ask why. You know, you said that you've got to be adaptable. What do you mean by that? Why is that? What is happening? And then finally, linked into yesterday's keynote, all around growth mindset. You know, really harness that and really look at threats as opportunities, and grow.
Great. I'm going to ask that you all stand here, and any of the other 30 under 30s, would you mind taking a picture of your peers and marking that they're presenting right now? This is really amazing. And we'll have one closing thought. Do you need us in further? Zahra?
Can I say for you, with your career?
Sure, after we take the picture. Where's Zahra? Is she up here? Yay, sorry. All right, thank you all very much. We have one last 2-minute thing, and then did you want to mention?
I was going to say the one thing about...
And then I'll put on my last 2-minute video.
I just want to say, or a reflection, listening to all of you has been super, super insightful. But if I look at Sharon, and I've known Sharon for over 10 years.
Maybe.
The key is emotional intelligence, know what motivates your colleagues, and authenticity, always be yourself. And I think that's the best thing you can do. You walk in as yourself. You don't try to be anybody who you're not for somebody else. But if you're true to yourself, then you can take the space that you do need.
I will say, I think there was reference to, we both worked at Thompson in various points where I gave up a dinner with the senior team to go play wiffle ball with the Brits, and I brought my glove. I mean, Paige, this is no secret, right? Hat, ready, and they punished me because there's like 5 bases, tequila shots on others, and I got a home run, and nobody cared. Nobody cared because I skipped all the drinks along the way. So it's pretty neat that you make relationships, and I'll be seeing a couple other folks that I've made. You will make lifelong friendships. And with that, an American inspirational go-by is this video that I will play. It's only like a minute, and I think you'll get kind of the coolness out of it. It's the just go and do it. This is decades before some of the 30 under 30, all the 30 under 30. Look at that cool clothes, guys.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here tonight, boys.
You have great opportunity from this event.
That's what you've earned here tonight. one game. If we played them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can.
It's a little aggressive, but you get the point.
Tonight, we are the greatest hockey team in the world.
And we are the greatest industry in the world, I believe.
You were born to be hockey players. Every one of you. And you were meant to be here tonight.
You're meant to be here today.
This is your time.
That's my favorite. This is your time right now in your career, whatever stage you're
Their
at.
time is done. It's over. I'm sick and tired of hearing about what a great hockey team the Soviets have. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
So the point of that isn't to make it, we're not upset with anyone, but this is your time, and now is the time to go out and get exactly what you want. And I couldn't have been more happier with that list. So thank you. If I could get all those lists, we'll get that back to you. Thank you guys very, very much.